Hey, this is Robby Vegas, and you're listening to Talking About Rock.
Okay, today's guest is a musician, pro wrestler, and podcast host. In and out of bands and part of the music scene for over 20 years, he's bringing hard rock, acoustic rock, and glam rock together. Here to chat with us about his latest release, Rock Show, let's welcome Robby Vegas. Robby, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm glad we could, get some stuff shuffled around, get you rescheduled. I know you've been busy, man. You got so much going on here. So let's go through the highlights real quick and we'll get more in depth. But so you joined the RFK Media roster. Excellent.
Yes, I did.
Jumped on the Monsters of Rock cruise, which I think you just got back from.
Yeah.
And then you just dropped your Rock Show single April 10th, man. Tell us something about this stuff here. Great stuff.
Yeah, everything's kind of been on a whirlwind since all of these things have kind of fell into my lap. So I got announced for the Monsters of Rock cruise first before anything else, and I ended up doing 3 sets on the cruise. I did just get off. It ended on April 17th, so we were out there for about 5 days, and I played the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that we were out there. And great experience. And it was the first time that I got to play Rock Show in front of a crowd live. So I was really looking forward to seeing how people responded to it, how they reacted to it. And the Monsters of Rock cruise is very generous because they were playing Rock Show overhead on the radio speakers of the ship as well, just randomly throughout the whole week, which was really cool of them to do. And yeah, so I sold some singles, CD singles that I had with me, and some T-shirts, and met some cool fans. And as far as everything else you mentioned goes, yeah, I signed on to do Rock Show with RFK. And yeah, it's been a cool partnership. And April 10th it came out, and it's been gaining steam every day since. So I'm really thrilled with how, people are receiving it and what they're getting out of it. And I was even more thrilled to be able to play it on the Monsters of Rock cruise live for the first time.
Yeah. Just a very, very cool, unique event. For sure, and Ron over at RFK Media, man, he's got some phenomenal artists all this time. Mm-hmm. We had, Bad Marriage on here, a couple, was it last month or so, when they got signed on the cruise last year.
Yes.
For the Monster Rock cruise. So just some awesome stuff. Definitely very cool. Yeah. So I wanted to go into your history a little bit.
Sure.
Before all this, you almost chose a totally different path, right? You're not anywhere near what's going on now. You're doing pro wrestling at 23.
Yeah. So it was crazy because, music was my first love, and I started to play guitar at 6 years old, and I started singing as a teenager, and I was in and out of bands even then. And I remember the first time I got paid to play music, I was 14, and just in and out of bands since then. And when I was around 21, 22, it sounds weird to say this now because I was just a kid, but I was getting so burned out on, the broken promises of the music industry. And I got into pro wrestling, which is filled with broken promises also. So, the similarities between being in the music business and the wrestling business are pretty cool sometimes. So I got into that, and I started doing shows, like you said, at about 23 years old, and still in the pro wrestling business right now. And I've had a wild wrestling career, man. I've gotten to be on TV with WWE multiple times. I've wrestled, legends from WWE, ECW, WCW. I've wrestled Warlord and Barbarian, Tommy Dreamer, Super Crazy. I teamed with Tommy Dreamer. I wrestled Fandango and teamed with him as well. Leo Rush, who's in AEW right now. So the list goes on. And I am a trainer at my own wrestling school. So I'm still active in the wrestling business. This year I took a little bit of a step back to make some room for more music stuff, but it was only a matter of time before music came back around. But I definitely have a love for both. And at some point, it was okay. I could juggle both of these things, so I started to inch my way back into music, little by little by little, and yeah, now I'm equally immersed in both.
Yeah, I mean, both of those are kind of like an entertainment spectacle, if you will, at this point right now. I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand. You see, I mean, I've worked with friends of mine who you know has had more fireworks done at like the WWE shows than he has at rock concerts. They were
Yeah.
shooting off. You know, it's just a big to do. I know at a lot of these things. So, and also besides that, you're also the voice behind the podcast "All Bets Are Off" with Robby Vegas. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Is that still happening?
Yes, yeah, I'm very, very active with that. It's actually growing a lot lately. Not that it was ever doing bad, but just lately it seems to be growing even more. So the whole reason I got into the podcasting game was because of music and wrestling, because I spent so much time out there on shows, on the road, meeting people. I got really fascinated with people's like, how did you get here stories? And I love just the car rides of like, so why are you here? Because I know why I'm here. And I
Right.
started
Everybody
thinking like,
loves to hear somebody's origin story, right? For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's a cool thing, and I think it's a cool thing too for fans to hear their favorite rock stars. Because we, you know, on the podcast, I like to do a thing that I call the lightning round, where I ask questions that have nothing to do with their careers at all. They're just for fun questions, and there's something about that too, pulling back the curtain a little bit. And so I got really obsessed with wanting to hear those stories and wanting to get to know these people on different levels and bring it to an audience, like basically sit in on the conversations that I have, anyways. So. Yeah, it ended up taking off, and you know, one of my first guests was Mike Fitz from Bad Marriage, and shortly after him, we had Bruce Kulick from Kiss and Grand Funk Railroad, and it was just hitting the ground running immediately, right off the rip. We're getting people like Bruce, and I'm still enjoying it. My next interview is with Charlie Parra from Quarantine in Saratoga, so you know we're rocking it. All bets are off, and I'm really enjoying it, and it's fun for me. It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, that's definitely the best part of it, right? Is you get to meet so many cool people, you get to hear their stories, and it's got to be fun. It's got to be interesting, right? For sure, definitely.
Yeah.
So, some other creds on your career here. You also stepped into films with some cameos and some indie projects that you got involved with. Also, what can you tell us about some of that?
Well, I had a couple cameos in some indie films that were just funny, meant to be just like a tongue in cheek, really out there projects. Never really considered doing anything like that until I was asked. But the really interesting one that I got to do was with Dan Licata, and Dan is a former writer for Saturday Night Live, and he was doing his first comedy special, stand-up comedy special. And I got the call to be a part of this because he needed essentially somebody to beat him up. And so I got the call to do the beating up because he needed a pro wrestler. And
Makes
so I
sense.
went
Yeah.
down. Yeah, right. So I went down to do it, and he kicked around a couple of ideas that I thought would have really hurt him. So my
You know,
idea
You
was
don't want to hurt the guy running the show.
right. So my idea was to bring a stack of cookie sheets and basically beat him up with the cookie sheets. And so we ended up doing that, and it was received very well, and the stand-up comedy special was received very well, and he's hilarious, and he's a nice guy, and we're still friends to this day. But that was the first time I met him. I remember I walked in, and I had a really tough match the night before, and I was really dragging. And he came up to me and he said, "Hey man, how's it going? I'm Dan." And I said, "Hey, sorry, I have a concussion." And that's how we met.
Oh yeah.
So after 2 8-hour days of filming and rehearsals and me, you know, showing him how I'm going to beat him up and explaining to him that this is going to hurt, but you'll be okay, I promise.
Right.
You know, we ended up having a little bond there, and yeah, it was a really great experience. So that was probably my favorite project that I did outside of, you know, my comfort zone, really, because I'm not an actor.
Right.
You know, so it
But
was.
you
It
got
was
to kind of
interesting.
peek behind the curtain, kind of do that a little bit, right?
I did, yeah. It was very interesting. It was not what I thought it would be. It was a lot of hurry up and wait. It was, you know, come over here, we're going to do this, and then just standing around and waiting.
Yeah, they got to block the scene and set
Exactly.
the cameras and set the background and everything. And If one thing's wrong, you got to shoot it all over again.
Yes, yes, and we had to do everything from like 20 different angles, and it was just it was wild. And I only had a few lines. It wasn't like I had to like memorize like a script or something. It was like 3 or 4 lines. My big thing was just kicking him in the gut and hitting him with the cookie sheet with the cookies on it, by the way.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, of course, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that was a really fun project, and like I said, it did do very well. So I'm proud of that one.
Very very cool. So let's get back into the music here a little bit. So from the list you have, you played shows with tons of names here. You know, ranging from Kiss, Flopper, Motley Crue, Deep Purple, Linkin Park, Goo Goo Dolls. I mean, quite a list here of different shows and events. You know, I have to ask you, because everybody likes to hear stories from the road, right? Is there any of this you can maybe share with us? Some of your memories from any of these shows, or you know, things that went really good or maybe not so good?
Yeah, I think, well, so for like Kiss, for example, my favorite band of all time, the reason why I started playing guitar, Ace Frehley.
Yeah, may you rest in peace, Ace.
Oh God, yeah. And meeting Ace over the last couple of years and getting to spend some time with him was really such a pleasure. And I'm glad that I got to experience that before he passed. And, you know, I need to throw out my co-writer, David Julian, who's also, you know, a co-writer on Ace's last record as well.
Yeah, we know David. He lives in our area. He's been on the show. Dave's a great guy. Yep.
Fantastic guy. Amazing. Love working with him. But when I did the side stage, so what it is it was the End of the Road tour was the second time I did the side stage opening act thing for Kiss. And, you know, Tommy Thayer was just the nicest guy. And, it was cool because, you know, obviously being such a big Ace fan, and a lot of Kiss fans are probably like, you can't love Ace and love Tommy. You took Ace's makeup.
Right.
But
you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
They make the choice, right? It's like David Lee Roth and Van Halen in the day, right? You couldn't like both. Right? Yeah. Were you in the Dave camp or were you in the Van Halen camp? That was the question when I was growing up.
Well, that reminds me of that scene from Airheads where the guy's trying to get into the radio station and he's like, David Lee Roth or Van Halen. It's like, Van Halen, he's a cop.
He's a cop. Yeah. You went with Dave most likely because at the time people weren't happy with Sammy, but whatever. They sold a lot of records, like he said. So
right, yeah, they sold a lot of records. But I remember Tommy being a nice guy, and he gave me a Kiss End of the Road pick and all that stuff, and he was just super chill. But I think the first time that I ever got to open up for somebody that I really admired, I was very young. I think I was like 21 or 22, and I opened up for Wednesday 13 for the first time. And huge Murder Dolls fan growing up. So Wednesday went solo, and I get the call to open up for Wednesday. And I just remember being so scared because I'm like, his fans are diehard. They're going to eat me alive. And it was a direct support thing. It wasn't like a side stage thing. It wasn't, you know, it was direct support for Wednesday, just for this first time. And I remember we chatted a little bit before the show, kind of calmed my nerves a little bit. And we go on, and I'm 2 songs deep, and I look over to the right, and Wednesday's standing on the side of the stage with his arms folded, just watching.
And he's watching. That made you feel a little more nervous.
I immediately forgot my chords and hit like 2 wrong chords in a row, and was like, oh, and like.
Well, you know what they say, if you do something wrong on stage, well, at least Eddie said it, do it again so people think you did it on purpose.
Right. But I'll never forget that because my guitar player at the time, my lead guitar player at the time afterwards was like, what happened with that tune? And I was like, I didn't know Wednesday was standing there, and he threw me off because this was my first time doing something on that, you know, that level.
Right.
I was working so hard to like get there, and all of a sudden my songs are starting to get played on the radio, and I get this call to open up for Wednesday, and I was just, and the rest of the band knew that I was a massive fan of his, so it was a big deal for me more than them. So yeah, that's like a funny memory that I'll never forget, is like the first time I opened up for Wednesday. Thankfully I got to do it again, but the first time I was just like so scared.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you meet your heroes, you know, sometimes you're not sure what to expect, but it sounds like you had a pretty good experience overall with that.
I did, and I'm friends with the guys in Wednesday, you know, to this day, and he doesn't remember that at all. It was so long ago, but like, just for me to still be, you know, involved with them and be buddies with them is pretty cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. So what's up next for you? Do you have more tracks coming out, video? What's on the horizon next? What are next steps?
So next step is the lyric video for Rock Show, so we can get people pumping their fists and singing along. So that'll be out relatively soon. I do have the full length complete. It is done. I don't have a release date for it yet, but I know that we're going to get it out before the end of this year. And on this, you will hear a who's who of some of the greatest names in rock and roll. And I'm going to drop them right now because I want people to get excited for this. This
Excellent.
album.
Yeah, I was going to say, give us a little bit, man.
Yeah, so on two of the tracks, we have Jimmy Bell, who obviously everybody knows from Geezer Butler Band, House of Lords, Autograph,
Yep,
Beyond
love
Purple.
Jimmy. Yep.
Jimmy's a fantastic guitar player, so it's great. And actually, one of the tracks that he plays on, we co-wrote. So that's very cool. And I have Joey Casada from Twisted Sister and ZO2 on a few of the tracks. I have Maxine Petrucci from Madam X shredding a solo on one of the tracks. I have Roxy Petrucci playing drums on some of the tracks from Vixen and Madam X. I have Juliana Amaral from Band Inc. does a duet with me on one of the tracks. And Todd Beauvais from Bad Marriage is playing bass on a handful of this record. So it's very much like a who's who of rock and roll on this record, which is what I was going for. I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to be unique. So, I also have to give a huge shout out again to David Julian, who co-wrote the entire record with me. Fantastic producer and engineer and an amazing guitar player, shredding some amazing solos himself on this record. And I have to give another shout out to somebody who's not on the record but helps very much is Steve Brown from Trickster. We like to send the tracks to Steve and get his input and his ideas. He's a genius when it comes to these things. He's a hell of a songwriter, and he's a great, great guy. So giving a shout out to Steve just on the fact that he did help a lot with his advice putting this record together.
Yeah, Steve is just a great guy. We've had him on the show multiple times. Always so entertaining. Always got so much stuff going on. From his time with Ace, working with Lorraine Lewis. Working with Dave Julian on tracks and all this different stuff. Obviously he has his Bon Jovi tribute now. They're doing which is doing quite well. But love Steve and love what he's got going on. Always such a great guy. When I text him and say, "Hey, do you got time for this or that?" He's always there. He's great about that. Very, very cool. That sounds amazing, man. Some of the stuff you got coming up here, that sounds so cool. We cannot definitely wait for that. Are you looking at show opportunities? Any dates floating around, or any thoughts being brought across the table at all, or is it still all in the pipeline process here?
A little bit of everything. So I have to finish up some acoustic dates that I have coming up, but I am starting to book full band dates, which when that becomes more available, I'll make the announcements. Right now, just in the process of who's actually going to be playing on the live shows, because obviously on the record, it's, like I said, a bunch of different musicians. So for the live shows, we got it narrowed down to who it's going to be, and now it's everybody getting their parts together, and we'll be doing that. I do have a VIP side stage show coming up with April Wine and Triumph, so I'll be doing that in June.
Where's that going to be at? Where are you doing that?
That one will actually be at Darien Lake in Darien, New York.
Oh, great. We'll be able to see you there because that's my stomping grounds, and I'll be at the show. Very, awesome. Very cool. Yeah.
Yep. I'll be playing in the VIP area of that show before the show starts. And what else do I have coming up? If I could plug a quick couple wrestling shows, one that's coming up, I'll be in Kitchener, Ontario at the Kitchener Odd for Slam Demonium Off the Ropes, where myself and my tag team partner, Adam Wacker, will be going against the Falcon Brothers for the Off the Ropes tag team titles. Also just won the #1 contender spot for Buffalo Championship Wrestling with my partner, Jeremiah Richter. So we'll be going after the tag team titles there as well. And Royal Oak, Michigan, I'll be heading out to you again for Superior Championship Wrestling, where I have some matches coming up with Evan Encore. And Erie All-Star Wrestling down in Erie, Pennsylvania. I will be back in June, I believe. I will be wrestling Jack Isaac, maybe, and I will be with Violet Overkill as always. So those are some cool things I got going on in the wrestling world.
Definitely very, very busy guy for sure, for sure. All right. So if folks want to know more about you, where should they check you out? On your socials, on your website? Where should they go?
If you go to my website, robbyvegas.com, there is a media page where you can find links to all my socials, all my music, all my podcasts, everything. I am most active as far as social media goes on Instagram, Robby_Vegas_official. You don't have to remember that because the link is on my website. But yeah, and quick shout out too, I'll be going to Carbondale, Pennsylvania for a show May 29th. So if you are in that area, I will be coming out there, but all the information, tour dates for wrestling and music will all be on the website.
All right, very, very cool. So, folks out there, you can check out Rock Show from Robby Vegas now. It's streaming now. All right, Robby, thank you so much for being with us today, man.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yep, so that wraps up this episode of Talking About Rock. And to our listeners out there, we hope you're doing your part by keeping the torch alive and supporting live music wherever you are.